Welcome to A Balanced Life on the Go. I'm Dr. Nicole Lindsay, your host on this podcast, along with Dr. Brian Jeanette. This is a podcast designed to help connect you to a more balanced life on the go. Each week, we will bring you simple, concise, and easy to implement ideas, tips, and strategies to help you connect to better nutrition, movement, and thinking so you can achieve balance in your busy life. Isn't this what life is all about? Trying to achieve balance so that we can be healthy, happy, and live to our fullest potential. We're glad you joined us. Let's get started.
Podcast number 14, 1 second after impact. Today we're talking about whiplash injuries.
So one of the things that happens with whiplash injuries, a lot of people think that whiplash is only about car accidents, and only, we get that you get hit by a car and then all of a sudden the driver comes out of the car and they hold their neck and you're thinking, oh my gosh, I just hurt this person, right? So today we're going to go over some of the things that involve in whiplash injuries, what happens to the actual neck itself, what causes it, and then other things that can cause whiplash too.
For sure. But before we get into that, we always like to start our podcast with talking about socks. And we have to know what socks Dr. Brian is wearing today.
You know what? These socks are incredibly faded, but they're my mountain socks. And I wear them all the time because they're my absolute favorite socks.
Awesome. Very appropriate for this area. We are in Western North Carolina in the mountains.
Absolutely.
Okay, so balanced life on the go. And it is so important to address whiplash injuries. A lot of people don't. They get sent home from the emergency room or urgent care after an auto accident, after whiplash injury, with muscle relaxers, pain pills, and are just told, go home and let it rest. Well, we want to talk to you a little bit about what's happening to your body, to your tissue, 1 second after impact and beyond. So how common are whiplash injuries? Let's talk about that first.
Yeah, whiplash injuries are actually exceedingly common because, like I said, whiplash injuries don't only happen in car accidents. They can happen in sports injuries. Here, Dr. Nicole already said we're in Western North Carolina, mountains, so mountain biking.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of jostling with the mountain biking. Again, horse country, horseback riding can do a heck of a whole lot of it. Really, it's anything that quickly brings your head forward and backwards, or even backwards and forwards. Whatever direction that head is going from.
Football is another one.
Football's a big one. Wrestling's a big. Gymnastics, like cheerleading, how many of these young women are getting dropped, on their head by doing some, gymnastics, tumbling and backflip. With really what happens with a whiplash injury is that your head moves faster than the muscles in your neck can control it. Because our necks and the bones in our neck are decently small. They're obviously a lot smaller than the bones in our lower back, but the muscles that surround our neck are so strong, and they help us keep us upright. They help turn our head. We see people in other nations holding 400 pounds of bricks on their head, and I'm like, how do they have so much weight on their neck? It's because the muscles are so strong.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that think that, at least I know when I'm doing exams with patients and talking to them about their past trauma history, I'll ask, have you ever been involved in an auto accident? And they'll say, just a minor low-speed impact, nothing major. But really, even that low-speed impact, if your car was stationary, there's lots of research showing that if you were hit and the car was only going 10 miles per hour, that can cause up to 8-9 G's of force to your neck, and that can cause soft tissue damage.
Yeah, absolutely. If any of us have actually been in an accident with a semi truck, how many thousands of pounds is a semi truck? They could hit you going 5 miles an hour, and it's a lot of steel coming at you.
Yeah. And we were just doing some research earlier about whiplash, and we came across an article that was written by Harvard. And they were talking about, in the article, how you get this S-shaped curve 1 second after impact. In fact, that's when most of the damage occurs to your cervical spine during a rear-end collision. So what happens is when your trunk, when your body is hit from behind, from the rear, what happens is your bottom part of your neck, the lower part of your neck, is forced forward, and the upper part of your neck, your chin will go back down and back. And so, in essence, this causes an S-shaped curve to happen that second after impact. And what's happening to the soft tissue that's surrounding your bones is they're opposing each other, and they're forcing against each other to hold the vertebra in place. And those opposing forces at that second are what causes the damage, because then you have tissue that tears in every which direction, because everybody at that moment in your spine is trying to protect the vertebra.
For those visual learners, I drew a little picture here. So normally our spine is this nice C-shaped curve, but when we have such a massive accident, automobiles 3,000-4,000 pounds, hit you, your head goes back. When your head goes back and it starts to tuck your chin and roll, it can actually create this S-shaped curve that we see here. And our body doesn't like this. Our body's not made like this. Our neck is made like this, but our neck is not made like that.
Exactly. So that's why the cervical curve is so important. And that's one of the ways that we can check and see if you did have an accident in the past, and if you're dealing with injuries from a car wreck, either recent or in the past, is by looking and measuring your cervical curve by taking an X-ray, which we do.
Mm-hmm. And taking X-rays and actually diagnosing whiplash on imaging can actually be very hard, because even if you're one of those people that has a normal X-ray, you can still have whiplash, right? Because like Dr. Nicole was talking about, all the ligaments and the disc and the soft tissue that's in there, that can be really severely damaged. And we wouldn't be able to see that on some images. So that's where our orthopedic exams come in. That's where when we, palpate and look at, feel the tissue itself, that's when we can also diagnose whiplash. And a lot of the times you're going to have a lot of achy pain. You're going to feel the pain in the neck. It can go down into the shoulders. It can go down into the arms. You might feel the numbness and tingling in the hands. You could get headaches from that, which is
the base of the skull, yep. Usually up and refers up to the forehead. You can get reduced range of motion, where when you go to look over your shoulder, it hurts either way.
Mm-hmm. You can get dizziness when trying to look over your shoulder as well.
Yes, and sometimes this pain, when you have a whiplash injury, can be sudden. It can happen right away. You get out of the car and you feel right away that you've got neck pain and tenderness, and you feel the muscles already starting to spasm and knot up. But for some people, it can be days later and even a week or two later.
Yeah, it's very, very common that it doesn't happen right away, that we're even thinking a month later, a month and a half later, something that seemingly has never hurt you before in your entire life, and then all of a sudden you pick up a pencil and you're like, oh my gosh, that's never hurt before, something is wrong.
Yeah, and then if this is a chronic issue, if this was left untreated and not taken care of, what we often find is that not only do we have those symptoms we just talked about, the neck pain, the stiffness, the headaches, the reduced range of motion, the knots in the muscles, but now we start to get tingling or numbness down into the arms, into the shoulder, the upper back. We can get blurred vision from this. We can get sleep disturbances, irritability, concentration issues, depression.
Mm-hmm. And those are some of the symptoms that a lot of people don't think about with whiplash, because when we talk about whiplash, we talk about the soft tissue structures in the neck and the actual spine itself, but there are more severe underlying issues. So like the memory issues, like the depression, like the irritability from that, like the inability to cope with that. We can have memory loss. All these things can be factors after whiplash injury.
Yeah, I've had many patients that'll come in after a car accident, and they're telling me about everything that's going on and what hurts them, and it's neck pain, headaches, And then as we start to dig a little deeper, they'll just say, I've been having trouble concentrating. I can't remember anything. I'm just irritable. I'm anxious. And they say they actually feel like they're going crazy. And they're almost afraid to tell me that because they think that there's no way that that the car accident and the whiplash actually can be causing this, but it can.
Yeah.
But it can, for sure.
I mean, one small change in the way that we feel physically can actually can affect us how we feel mentally and emotionally.
For sure.
So it's all tied together.
It's all tied together. And, I know personally what this kind of impact can have on the human brain and the body. Many of you know James, our physical therapist here. He's my husband as well. And he was involved in a bad rear end collision when he was in college. And he was in an old Mustang. He was the passenger of a car. And his head ended up going through the windshield. And he sustained a lot of injury, not only to his neck and upper back, but his frontal lobe made impact, with the windshield there, and he had some frontal lobe head damage and suffered a great deal with all these symptoms and more as a result of that.
Yeah, so it's
real. It's a real deal. So what should you do if you've had a whiplash injury? Maybe you're listening to this right now and you just had a car wreck yesterday or the day before. Maybe you had one 3 years ago and you never really got any treatment. And you know what? Your neck is stiff and it does hurt and you feel knots and you have headaches. What should you do?
Immediately afterwards, one of the things you want to do is you want to just get checked out just to make sure everything's okay. Because the last thing that we want is for you to find out a couple weeks down the road when your neck's not feeling any better that you actually had a fracture or something really serious going on. So it's always our advice to get checked out by a medical professional. If everything gets checked out, and that's fine, some of the immediate steps that you can take is actually putting some ice over the area. Ice is a really good pain reliever, painkiller of that area, so ice helps a lot. Over-the-counter anti-inflammatory medication also can really help in the very short term of that.
Yeah, and I also like some homeopathic remedies as well. Arnica is a great natural pain reliever. You can grab that at Earth Fare or your natural health food store.
Arnica gel is amazing. Yeah.
BioFreeze, that's something we carry in the office, and that's also a great natural pain reliever. It's got menthol in it. And then if you are an essential oil user, there's quite a few. I know I have one from Young Living called Panaway that is amazing, and that's also a really good thing to use for pain relief, natural pain relief. After the first couple days and the inflammation is starting to go down, then it's okay to switch to heat. And you can use that for 2 to 3 days after the car accident.
Absolutely. When you want to be checked out by us here, because you know that you have a neck injury or neck pain from a car accident or just from something else that's causing this neck pain, some of the stuff that we can help you with here is by doing our chiropractic exam. We can take our x-rays and determine if there's anything structural going on. We can look at that curve in the neck and see if that curve is holding strong, if it's stable. We can take a look at the soft tissues. And some of the things that we can provide here for immediate relief and even long-term relief are E-stem treatments. We do dry needling here. We can do laser over the area, and that helps to treat the soft tissue. That helps to treat the muscles and the ligaments that support the neck, along with the chiropractic adjustments, which are actually going to help realign that spine and make sure that those bones are in the right place and functioning like they should.
Yeah, what we find in most of our rear end collision or whiplash sufferers, whether it's from a car wreck or another injury, is that the patient has lost that normal lordotic curve. As Dr. Bryan explained, it should measure roughly 35 to 45 degrees, and the patient's head should be right on top of their shoulders. So most people that have sustained this type of injury, their head is forward and they've lost some degree in that cervical curve. So not only are we trying to reduce the pain and get more range of motion back in your neck, but we want to correct the postural, the positioning of your spine and get your head back on top of your shoulder. So when we take x-rays, we will do what's called motion studies. And we will look at each segment and see how each bone is moving compared to the one below it. And what we typically find is people that have had injury, they'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, sometimes 7 segments in their cervical spine that are not moving, that are stuck, that are fixated, that are locked. And that means that there's a lot of scar tissue scarring those bones down from old injury. So we've got to break through that. And a lot of the modalities that Dr. Brian just mentioned and more, the other thing we do is trigger point therapy and Graston with the tools. We can get in there and break that up, dry needling, and we break the scar tissue up, so then we can work on restoring that cervical curve through stretches, exercises, adjustments, and that way a year from now, 2 years from now, you're not going back in this position and dealing with headaches, neck pain, reduced range of motion, on and on and on.
Mm-hmm. Really what it is, it's in order to treat this effectively, it's combining everything together. It's combining the chiropractic adjustments. It's combining the soft tissue work. It's combining the exercises. It's combining the stretches that are going to create this long-term revitalization or rejuvenation of your spine and your body. I mean, let's face it, when we're in pain, we're not who we are, right? We change when we're in pain. We get grumpy, we get more irritable. So reducing that pain and getting the range of motion back that we once had, right? Because none of us want to be that person that said, "Oh, I used to be able to do that." It's like I remember when I could turn my head and look all the way over my shoulder. We never want to be like that.
Right.
So combining all these together, what we do here at the office is really, slam dunk.
I can't tell you how many times I hear that in a day too, where patients, they didn't even tell me that when they first started, that they couldn't see when they were driving. Couldn't turn their head one way or the other.
It's so common, and it blows my mind. Like, you know what's changed? It's like pulling out of the left here, pulling out of your parking lot. I can look to the left. I'm like, what were you doing before?
Right. Yeah.
They're like, just guessing.
Exactly.
Like, oh. Okay.
So you can get that range of motion back, but you can get so much more. You can get that cervical curve. You can get better connection between your brain and your body. You can get more energy, better sleep, more concentration. Just a happier, healthy body is what you can get.
Absolutely.
For sure. So if you're suffering from whiplash, from injury, neck issues, any kind of issues, reach out to us at Back in Balance so we can get you taken care of. If you're not local, look for a chiropractor or contact us and we'll help you find one in your area.
Absolutely. So the one thing that we want to leave you with today is to do something about it. If this neck pain, it stays chronic and it stays constant, it's going to stay with you for a long period of time. Some neck pains resolves. It definitely does get better. But if you've been dealing with this from an old car accident, get it checked out and get some help for it.
Yes, because the longer it's there, it's one of those things, it doesn't go away on its own. It's only going to get worse.
Right.
So that's the one thing. Well, we appreciate you listening, and if we can help you in any way, don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.